Okay, so we are officially recording. Good morning, guys. Dan dropped in the chat one last time for those of you that just joined us a link to the Nearpod that we're going to use to present to you guys before we get you into Minecraft to actually build with us. So I'm Tracy Brown with OIT, and I'll let Dan introduce himself for those of you that don't know him.
Howdy, everybody. I'm Dan Fitzgerald. I'm the STEM teacher or Triple E STEM teacher at North Glen Elementary School.
All right. So back in the fall at eCoach Day, I did a session called Show and Tell the Story with Google Earth. And I made a joke just here in the office. Nobody else was here to see it or hear it. But I made a joke about, you could probably do a show and tell the story with just about every application that we use across the district. And I spent a lot of time in the fall getting to know Minecraft. And the more I spent time getting to know it, I actually had a chance to use it with a sixth grade class that I was teaching. And the more time I spent with it, the more I thought that actually would be a really cool session to do. Was kind of a partner to the one I did in the fall on Google Earth. And at this point, I've had some experience with using Minecraft with students, but I know that on my own journey, I reached out to some of our local experts, and Dan would certainly qualify as that. He's been using Minecraft with his third graders for quite a while. And I think one of the great things about a partnership like Dan and I doing this session is that I get to bring a little bit of the secondary perspective. So I'm going to tell you some things that I know worked well and didn't work so well with my middle school students, some of the things that I learned from doing a project with them. And then Dan's going to give you more of that elementary perspective because, of course, it's very, very different when you use it with younger kids than it is when you use it with older kids. I mean, honestly, so many of them are confident in building that isn't necessarily an age thing, but the things that they try to get away with very much change between elementary and middle school. So, like I said, we're going to start off in Nearpod. If you haven't already, please click the link in the chat and jump into our Nearpod here. I can see we've got 19 people, so maybe just about everybody, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, one of the things that really stood out to me very recently um, was something from the most recent round of equity training. So the last early dismissal day when we did equity, I don't know what all of your schools did, but I know the school that I went to and attended. One of the big takeaways that I had was this idea of application. If students are not given a chance to apply what they've learned, they only retain about 5% of it. And that really kind of resonated with me because, as I said, I've been working on a project with the sixth grade students that I was working with in Minecraft, and that is really what Minecraft is all about, is letting them apply, letting them physically get their hands, maybe not as physical as, having supplies in the classroom, but letting them get their hands on something and create based on what they're learning. So it's all about application. So we've got a little collaborate question here for you guys. I'm waiting for my Nearpod to load. I got a lot of things open on my computer. It's slow. Okay, so what we want you guys to do is respond to the question, have you considered using Minecraft with your students? And if not, why? So let's just take a moment and you guys can click that box at the bottom that says share your thoughts and tell us what barriers you have. And Dan went ahead and dropped that Nearpod link into the chat one more time for anybody who's joined since we got started. All right, Mike says he's used it. Great. Sheila's used it a few times. Sheila teaches kindergarten too. Woohoo! Okay, April says she doesn't know the program, so she hasn't used it. Um, Aubrey's used it for sustainable biome projects. Awesome. Lots of yeses. I'm so surprised. That's awesome. Okay, Melissa's similar. Haven't used it yet because she doesn't know how. Okay, yep. Beth Starn says, I'm just not there yet. Awesome. After school clubs, that's honestly a great way to get started in it if you're not comfortable yet doing it in the classroom. Okay. Corey, content is sometimes a barrier, right? As a physical education teacher, sure. Considered it, but lack of knowledge. Thank you, Jennifer. Not very familiar. Good. Elizabeth said, okay. Tried using it, good, Carol, but not feeling that comfortable. We're seeing a lot of themes here. It has to do with our own personal comfort in it, right? Okay. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to give you guys about 20 more seconds. If you haven't responded, go ahead and let us know what barriers you have if you have not tried it yet. Krista said she's looking for ideas. That's awesome. Hopefully, we'll give you one good one today. Awesome. Okay. And wrapping up, if you're still typing, okay. So, as we saw from reading through that, a lot of it has to do with our own comfort level, and particularly when you get to an application like Minecraft. If you've ever read an article about it, you can't avoid, statements like it's the number one most popular game in the world. So that can definitely be daunting when you think about how much our students know about the application, and that's a barrier for us because we're a little bit hesitant to get them into an application where we know they already know more than we do. And I'll tell you, you'll see it because they will immediately try and take over and show you things. And they'll do things that you didn't necessarily anticipate. And that's all just a part of the learning curve with any new application is the first time you use it, you find 10 things that went wrong. But that's not a reason to abandon it. That's a reason to kind of pause, rethink, and plan a little bit better next time. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why an application like Minecraft is so awesome. So it's game-based learning, which is a little bit different than gamification, if you've ever read about these two topics. And there are several benefits to game-based learning, and then just one that I threw in at the bottom because that was a big deal for me with my student project. So first off, it's increased problem-solving skills. I know from working with my own students when they had difficulty with things, I didn't just step in and solve the problem for them. I gave them some suggestions, but I wanted them to think about it. And oftentimes it was things like searching through their inventory to see if they could find an alternative type of block or structure to what they wanted to use. And because they enjoy the game, they're actually willing to. You don't see them shut down and get frustrated and walk away from a problem. They want to solve it and they're willing to. And that just lends itself to that second bullet point there, which is that it encourages critical thinking. They have to think about ways to solve the problem. They have to think about ways to build what you're asking them to build, and ways to make sure that what they're building is clear to you. Obviously, student engagement, right? I mean, they love this application. Anytime they can bring in something that they love outside of school into the classroom, you see their eyes light up. You see them lean in, you see them get super excited to use those things. So you'll notice the engagement and motivation. It introduces situational learning. So they actually have to build something real world or similar to what they would do in the real world. Um, Emphasizing perseverance again, that kind of goes back to that first bullet point up there with the problem solving. They have to find a way, and they're usually willing to, because again, they want to work in the application. And then just a spatial understanding, they have a build space and they have to figure out how to build whatever you're tasking them with in that space, and then how to build up, how to build out, are all great ways for them to understand their spatial awareness and things. And then, as I mentioned, I added that last bullet point there, because my own experience, my curriculum said the students were supposed to build. I taught a sixth grade Mission to the Stars class, and the curriculum said the students needed to build a colony on a fictional planet, but it didn't give me any idea of what materials we were supposed to use. I was like, am I going to collect up Amazon boxes all semester long? Is this toilet paper tubes and paper towel rolls? Am I just passing out poster board and they're going to build it by drawing it on paper? So any idea I came up with involves a cost, right? And that's often a barrier for us as teachers, that maybe you've got MOI money, maybe you're willing to come out of pocket for a couple of things like tape or glue, but there's always a cost involved. And when we look at Minecraft, it's a 3D student project that is zero cost to you. They have almost an endless supply of inventory that they can build. They can build whatever their imagination can come up with, as long as it's blocks, right? Because that's Minecraft. But it's never any money out of your pocket, and that's one of the things that made me say, I'm going to embrace Minecraft and I'm going to use this for my student project. All right. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dan. He's going to talk to you about some of the tips for being successful in Minecraft. And then we're going to get you guys in here in just a second to build with us.
Sweet. Thank you, Tracy. Heads up, just in case my voice starts to go. I'm getting getting over a sickness. That's why I sound more like Batman than I normally do. But now that we've kind of seen, why you might want to look into Minecraft and why it's a great tool to use with students, I'm here to talk to you about actually doing that, the application and how you're going to make this successful in your class. And we have a lot of resources to do that. We'll actually give you a Google folder later that'll have a lot of these files and worlds that you can use right away with students. But to preface this, let's say you have an idea and you're like, all right, I know what I want my students to build. I'm ready. I want to get in. Here are some really quick things to do right off the bat just to make sure you have the most success possible. And this is from, experience of me and Tracy applying this in our classes, and what we found led to the most success. Number one, this may sound silly, but make students do the tutorials. There are built-in tutorials in Minecraft. We will show you where they are, but they show people how to play. They're also great for those of you that are like, dude, I don't know any of this stuff. I've never played Minecraft. But these are really important for students to do, even if the student is saying, hey, I know how to play. You think you could teach me how to play Minecraft? No way. You're old. That's what I get a lot. But in reality, what happens a lot is that students will have played this on something else, be it like a video game console, like an Xbox or a PlayStation. And it is totally different when you're on a Chromebook. There's a touch screen for the Chromebook. Using the keyboard and touchpad can be really difficult for a student to get used to. So those tutorials help. Next step, having a rubric for what you're expecting the students to do will absolutely help students be guided in the right direction. Minecraft is a huge tool, and it can be overwhelming. It can be a little scary to think like, oh man, how am I going to keep students on task when they're in there? And how can I ensure that, they are working on what they're supposed to be doing and actually accomplishing our goals? Having a rubric and going over that before you go in, even printing paper copies so students can have it right there next to them while they're in the world, is a really great way to ensure that. One other thing was making an example first. A world that we're going to share with you today has space for a teacher example and then space for students to build. So they can always look at that teacher model and say, okay, cool. Like I see how they built it, or I see an idea. How can I then apply that to my own, or use that as inspiration as I make something new? Last, just on our quick tips, is things are going to go wrong. Things could go wrong today while we're doing this. Get ready for that, and that's okay. Have a plan for that. Obviously, Minecraft is really fun. Students might be disappointed if it's not working right away, but there are a lot of other solutions for that. Having either physical things that students can build with in place of Minecraft in case it's really just not working at all. Things like Legos or tools or even graph paper to just sketch it. On the other end, most of the time, Minecraft as a whole, something will work. The most common problem that I think we've run into in the past has been students having trouble joining a world, or being able to join in your world. There are still ways that you can share a copy of a world with them so they can still go in and build for themselves. And then you'll be able to either have them export that to you, or you can just walk around and see what they've made on their screen. So they can still use Minecraft even if they aren't in your world. It's definitely more fun if you're all together, and a little easier for you to interact, but not impossible. So moving on to the next, unless I missed something, Tracy. Sweet. Today, we are going to do a super simple lesson. You're all going to be the students. We're all going to jump in this together. We are going to be enacting the story of the three little pigs. We are going to be taking, this is a really common STEM project. You might have heard of this or done this yourself, where you read the story of the Three Little Pigs. If you've never read it, fascinating story, all true events. But this engagement or this activity we're going to be doing follows after you've read that. Say in class, we're going to be then designing a house for the fourth little pig, or even reenacting or building parts that you've seen throughout the story. So that's what we'll be doing in Minecraft today. Um, on the next slide, I know we have a rubric and a planning document. You guys, you can click those. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sweet. Uh, like I said, we're gonna give a Google folder with all this stuff in it at the end for you to make copies or change it, or do whatever you please with it. But right now, if you want to click those documents, these are just, again, some examples. It'll force you to make a copy when you click that. So don't stress about writing over it. Or if you're like, oh man, I got an idea already, I want to start working on this. These are really great templates for you to use.
If you're
So
struggling to make a copy from the Nearpod, I'm just dropping them in the chat for you guys. So those forced copy links are one after the other there for the rubric and the planning document.
that is so kind of you. I'm sorry, blowing my nose in the middle there. So just in case you're, let's say that you're you stepped away from the computer, you've done something else right now. These rubrics are basically just covering the, what we're looking for, the structures that we're looking for in what they build. Saying that we want to make sure that they design 4 walls. We want to make sure that it's at least 3 blocks high. That'll make more sense when we're in the world, because you'll see that your character that you play at is 2 blocks high. So they need to be able to enter it in and have a roof above them. So it needs to be at least a 3rd block high. You need to have a door and a roof, at least 1 window, and then optional, you can add furnishings on the inside. One thing that I want to make sure is really clear, obviously, uh, when you're doing a project like this, you'll want to have them take some time to plan it and sketch out beforehand, uh, be it by drawing or writing their ideas. They can do that on these rubrics. You'll see there's that planning document that they could write on. But also, just so you know, when we go into Minecraft, you'll see that every room that students can build in has a place, like a big board that they can type on, so they can describe what they're building, which is a really great tool for, especially as you're getting into those intermediate grades, middle school. I have 3rd grade through 5th graders do that, um, at least to give some ideas of what they're making and to share out with others.
And when we talk about the planning document, if you are doing this with younger students or emerging writers or hesitant writers or things like that, consider graph paper. You still want to ask them to plan before you just open up a world and invite everybody in. Think about it with any type of project. Even if I had talked about, breaking down Amazon boxes for building, without a plan, they're just going to sit there with scissors cutting up boxes, right? And then they don't know what they want to build. So you definitely want to have them plan regardless of the age. If you are not expecting that your students are going to be able to write out their plan the way that this particular planning document is asking you guys to do, just pass out graph paper. Ask them to draw it. Ask them to make little notes off on the side about how many blocks tall is it going to be, how many blocks wide. But they definitely should plan before you let them in, or you can expect that there will be a lot of wasted time while they just kind of run around and play. They'll try and do that anyway, but without a plan, guaranteed.
I'm muted. Sorry. So with that, we want to do this stuff. We're gonna make you join into Minecraft and do this with us. We're gonna have about 20-ish minutes in Minecraft. I'm gonna take just a minute just to open it and show you guys. I also know a few people have joined in since the start, but I want to say right now, I'm gonna turn my camera off because Minecraft is a big application. Most of the time when I'm using it in class, I'm not also streaming. But I have done this virtually, and it still works without, works better with the camera off. But just wanted to give a heads up. I'm going to turn my camera off. You are welcome to turn yours off as well. I'm going to share my Minecraft. Let's make sure you can see it. Tracy, you're going to be my eyes because I'm going in. I'm plugged in. Uh, so,
I got you,
uh,
Dan.
Sweet, thanks. Here's me, this cool little lumberjack guy. Um, just as a heads up, we're not going to go over like the how to play very much. I might touch on a couple things, but remember, we're going to share a document with you that has instructions on the stuff we're showing today. And if you're saying, man, Mr. Fitz, again, I really don't know how to play Minecraft at all. Good news is, if you click this play, it's going to bring you up a bunch of options. In View Library, there are tutorials. So you'll see there's a whole setup that says how to play. And these are really, really helpful in showing you like, hey, this is exactly how you play. So if I was trying to learn how to play with touch controls, which many of our students are, I would click that. And then literally that first world, I click it and say create world, and it'll pop me right in.
And when we said make the kids do the tutorials, we didn't mean all of them.
Oh,
Pick
yeah.
a couple of them. Pick a couple of them, like how to move, how to interact with blocks, how to place and break are all good ones, but I wouldn't go through all of them. We know you have limited time.
Yeah, there's 6 tutorials here. You really, yeah, really only need those like first 2, or even possibly third. We don't need the camera very much. We don't need an NPC, at least in most of the things we make. NPC stands for non-player character, where you'd just be making like a little person. We don't need that, so we're not going to worry about that. Today, though, on this main play screen, so once you've clicked that play on the home screen, you guys are going to be clicking this join world button. And that's what your students will do when you have a world you want them to join. So when I click that, it's going to ask me for a code. It's going to show all these icons. Obviously, I haven't shown you the code yet. So stick with me. Look at the meat just for a second longer. You can have Minecraft open in the background, but I'm going to show you exactly how to get this. When I go to view my worlds, this is the world we are going to mess with today. And you'll see I have a ton of worlds in here that I've saved. But if I click on this one that we're working on today, I'm going to host it. Host means that I want other people to join in. And remember, we're going to give you this world as a file. You'll be able to use this in your own classroom. So if you have a project or an idea that you really want students to be able to uh, build in a world and see what each other built, this is a really great resource for that. It could be, similar. You could just take this lesson where we're doing the 3 little pigs. You could do something different that applies to, say, another story you've read, or displaying a math problem. I've used this with STEM projects. A really cool thing about this world is what they build, we can actually export and 3D print. So if you have a 3D printer, that's something cool. But welcome to the world. I'm going to just do a really, really, really short and fast showcase of it. Whenever students pop in, they'll pop in on this big red carpet. There are all these buttons on the wall. There's a Mr. Fitspot. I made this world. You can totally get rid of Mr. Fitspot or delete it, or change what he's saying. But uh, I've got all these buttons. If you turn around, like we said, here's the teacher example room. And as we said before, we are making a house for the 3rd or 4th little pig. Here's that board I was talking about where you can read about it. Um, we can see some of the models within here, and you can walk around it and see all the stuff. But let's say a student has seen all of that, or when you pop in this world, you are like, I am ready to build. All you have to do is walk up to these buttons on the wall. Feel free to put your name on the sign by clicking it with either the right click, or if you've got a touch screen, just poke it on your screen and type your name. And then there's that button. Again, same thing. You're going to right click it or just poke it on your screen, and it will pop you into a room to build in. This is the only place that students can build in. So you'll notice while I'm in here, I can put things down, but when I'm back out, again, I can click this button to leave. I'm back out. I can't place anything. It just won't let me. One other thing that I get asked a lot before we let you in case you're wondering, like, oh, Mr. Fitz, man, this seems like a recipe for disaster. How am I going to stop someone from just like building something and then someone else from coming into their room and just destroying everything? Well, when you click that button to come in here, I'm going to go into teacher mode, so I can leave this wall. Normally, students can't cross this red border, but you'll notice that now that I've clicked that button, it's gone. So no one else can go in that room until that student leaves by clicking the button at the door. So that kind of keeps a little bit of the behaviors back. We're going to let you guys in. I want to make sure that you guys get time to play with this and mess with the tools. If you don't know how to play, if you do not know how to play, uh, we are here to help you today. If you are like Mr. Fitz, I love seeing this idea and I want to jump in, but I think it's more important for me to learn some of that. Those tutorials are there too, but I know that this is a really great time. We're here to help you. Feel free to come in. I see a lot of people are joining. That join code is at the top of my screen right now. It is Apple Agent, which is this gray looking robot, Panda, and then the rail, which looks like a ladder. You'll click those and come in. I'll see that I have a lot of people here, which is great. Um, if you are like, hey, Mr. Fitz, I have a question, but now I'm in Minecraft and I can't figure out how to ask it, click the enter button and it'll open a chat. You can type into that chat and I'll answer you directly in here. If you are like, I want out, I've got vertigo, or my dog is eating my homework, I don't know, something in the background, feel free to click the escape button. And that will bring up where you can leave the world or just close Minecraft altogether. Um, I see lots of people are looking around. Some people are looking at the floor. That's cool. Check out the floor, man. It's pretty cool. How do you enter a room again? On the walls, you'll see all these buttons. If you have a touch screen, look at the button. It's that gray thing in the middle of the weird block, and poke it on your touch screen. That is one way to use touchscreen. If you've got a mouse, you can right click it with the mouse. So point that center and right click. Nice.
Thanks, Tim. I was just looking to see if I had written that down and I couldn't get it. Yes. Okay. Tim dropped that one in there.
Nice.
Um, there's also, you'll notice in the bottom corner of your screen, it says H will show you the controls. So if you're not sure how to open up your inventory and find building tools, one of the nice things about working in creative mode, which we are in right now, is you have a full inventory. You have absolutely every type of block that Minecraft makes available to users in there. So if you use the letter E on your keyboard, that will open up your inventory for you, and you'll see all kinds of blocks come up for you right away. But you've also got a couple of tabs across the top when you're in your inventory. That first one that shows like a little brick wall right there will just give you basic building materials, and you can use any type of block that you want to start building the walls of your house. Right click is place, left click is break. Now, I always tell people I think that's very counterintuitive. You know, since the dawn of computers and mice, left click has been pretty much what you use to do everything, and right click is a specialty um, button, right? And so, for whatever reason, the creators of Minecraft decided that left click was going to be break something and right click is place. And what that means for me, and I see this with a lot of others, is that I mean to place something and I accidentally left click, and so I break a lot of the times when I mean to place. So one of the things that I tend to keep in my very first slot down there, that bar across the bottom of your screen that allows you to put inventory items, I tend to keep in space number one the blocks of grass. So if you open up your inventory and type in grass to search, you'll find something called a block of grass, and then I keep that in spot number one. So if I go to place a block in front of me and I accidentally break the ground in front of me, I just go over to block number one, grass, and I place that right back where it was. So instead of getting frustrated, I've found a way to solve the problem for myself when I need to.
I'm noticing some people are starting to build, which is awesome. Uh, One thing that is also really cool, how do I zoom out of my screen? That's a great question. Click escape, just so I can make sure that you're seeing it. If you click escape, there are settings. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by zoom in, but if you go to video in, or sorry, when you click escape, go to settings, It's under the little tab that looks like a cube Earth. Once you click settings, scroll down to see video on the left side, and there should be some sliders you can adjust. FOV might be one that you want to mess with. I set up individual spaces for my students to stay in. So these are those spaces. No problem. These spaces are for students to work in. There's always a way for a student to leave that space through the button. But let's say you want to just lock a student in there. First off, that's weird. Second off, if you do want to do that, you as the teacher can destroy the button that lets them leave. So once they're in that room, you can be like, cool, you have to stay in here and you have to work on this. Because you're just sprinting around. That said, I do recommend letting them sprint and look around, because you'll notice that when you leave the room and you're back in like that hallway, um, that you can walk around and see other rooms and see what people have built, which is a really cool way for students to like get inspiration and share their ideas. You'll also notice that those boards that are on the edge of each room, students can type on, and those boards are facing outwards, meaning that someone else who's walking up to their room can see what they did. I see we just had a bunch of people leave. Well, really, just 3 people leave. Um, Hopefully that you guys are okay. But if you need to, feel free to hop into the Google Meet and turn on your mic. I did get a heads up. Someone said that, uh, oh, yeah, you can make a third person view, which they're actually one of the like F keys does that. Let me see if I can figure out which one. Oh, that's not.
While
Can I
while
oh,
Dan looks at
sorry.
that, we do have a couple of, I know Dan showed you guys the chat in Minecraft, but we've got some people using the chat out here in Meet too. So I just want to address some of the questions that have been sitting here for a couple of minutes in Meet.
Sorry.
Stephanie Smith, that's okay. I'm staying in Meet to watch that. Stephanie Smith asked about the shared Chromebooks in the media center. Um, so one of the things that happens every time a user logs onto a Chromebook, it stores a bit of their information. Um, and then when they download Minecraft, it stores the actual application. So you're basically using up space on the Chromebook. And what happens, especially on those shared Chromebooks, is you get a lot of profiles taking up space, and you get a lot of installed Minecraft taking up space. So what you really want to do is you need to wipe those. If you're familiar with the term power wash, I would recommend anytime you're talking about shared Chromebooks that you kind of set a schedule to power wash those once a month, every other month. That's going to free up all of that space so that when the students sign on and do Minecraft, they don't get that message or that error that they can't log in. Also, having them use the same one. I know that doesn't work across the whole school. You don't have 300 shared Chromebooks, but if you have the same class coming in, having them log on to the same one reduces the number of profiles and the number of times the students need to install that and so on. So that's one tip to be successful with students is power wash the Chromebooks. And honestly, it became my number one solution when I was doing this with students in my class. Whatever they were like, I can't log on. I would try things like turn off the Wi-Fi, I'd turn it back on. But after about the third time of them having trouble, power wash, boom, and just have them start over. Um, Tim, I'll get with you in a second. Somebody started to turn on their microphone to ask a question.
Sorry, that was me. I just wanted to clarify the question that I had asked. Just like, did you have to program the redstone to make the buttons, and did you have to use redstone to create the spaces where they would jump to?
Yeah, so this is all command blocks and redstone. I'll be fully honest, this took me like days to make this thing. It was frustrating to code just because it was a bit tedious. That said, like I said before, we are giving you a copy of this world in a Google folder that's just a blank slate, and you can make as many copies of it as you want. If there's something that you're like, oh, I really wish like it could do this, let me know, and I'm happy to like try and edit and see what I can do. There also might be an answer of like, oh no, that's already in this world. And when you're using it with your students for a different project, you'll just make a copy of it for that class. So then you have the original one anytime you want to, use it again.
And Dan made this world, and this world has 24 build spaces. And the first time that I went to use it, it's like, wow, most secondary classes have more than 24
Mhm.
kids. So I actually took Dan's world and added on to it and made one that has 40 build spaces in it. Now, that is currently the maximum number of people that you can have in a hosted world together is 40. Um, so there is a second version of this world that we can make available, certainly for my secondary folks, that has 40 build spaces in it for larger classes. If you are ever in a situation where you have more than 40, you're going to have to be hosting two separate worlds. So you'd have like I would always say the best way to do it is maybe split it up alphabetically, where like everybody from A to M with your last name join world A, everybody with N to Z join world B, and that way you can get into those collaborative spaces, but keeping in mind that you're reaching that top end limit for how many students, how many people can be in a shared world together. Um, Another one that was placed in the chat here in Meet, Tim asked about looking at your Minecraft account. More than likely, and I could be wrong on this, but more than likely you're stuck on an old version of Minecraft on your, depending on when you installed it on your computer. So I would say the best thing is to get it uninstalled from your teacher device, and then pull it from the software center brand new, and that'll get you the latest version. I have had trouble in the past um, on my computer when I'm not on the same version that the students are on, with us getting into worlds together and things like that.
Yeah, all right, let me give it a shot. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Mike asked how to power wash. Dan, I know
Mhm.
it's a whole bunch of things. It's Alt Control Shift R. Isn't it all of those things at one time?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me. Sorry, I'm answering a couple questions, but
That's okay.
yeah.
We've got
So
them
it
coming
is
into the chat here and coming into the chat in
Alt,
Minecraft.
Control, Shift, and R. As a heads up, someone just in Minecraft asked me, "Hey, how do I enter the room that I named?" The reason that you can't enter it right now, I just noticed, is because someone else is already in that room. So someone else already clicked that button. You might have to just find a different button on the wall. That is one thing about like this area, is that if someone's already taken a room, they've clicked the button, then the button is gone unless the teacher chooses to put it back. That's in case you want to have group projects or two people working together or three people in the same room. There are ways to do that. Um, I'm sorry, I don't know the first name, but Everett L. There is no button on room 4, so you might want to look at a different button on the wall. For example, room 6, a couple ones down, there is a button there. There's already someone in room 4. So unless you want me, I can put you in there if you want to work with someone else, but there's already someone in there that's working. I
Oh, no,
also
that's
just want to
fine.
say, oh, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I had put my name on it, and so I'll erase that.
And I did find, Leslie, I did find that my students did the same thing. Students would walk up and click on the board to put their name on it, and while they were putting their name on the board, another student would walk up and click the button. And then as soon as the student exited out of the board that they had put their name on, they'd be like, "Ms. Brown, where'd my button go? It was here literally a second ago." And I'd go over to the build space and I'd find that there was a student in there. And I'd be like, "Okay, well, student B, you entered the build space without putting your name on the board while student A was putting their name on the board." So again, these are the types of things that you learn when you're working on this, is that we do the best we can in building a world to try and keep others out of your build space and from sabotaging your projects and stuff, but it isn't perfect. And I had students that were in build spaces that had never put their names on them, and every single day I'm like, guys, I can see, there's builds all over the world and there's only like 5 names on the doors. You guys need to put your name on the door next to you. Can't get credit for a build project if I don't know who you are. And so it was a real struggle for me to get the middle school kids to stop going straight into their room and building, and just pause. Put your name on your build space. Put your name on it. And I had to remind them every single day while we were working on our project to do that.
Um, Two other things that I wanted to go over, just to answer a couple of questions. One, I just wanted to give the heads up. I didn't say this out loud at the start of the session. I probably should have, but um, on the session description, we had instructions on how to install Minecraft Education. If you did not install it before this, and you're not in Minecraft right now, those instructions are there. If you need support with that, uh, let's talk about it later. Just because I want to make sure that uh, I'm supporting people within Minecraft. Right now, I'm probably still presenting my screen so you can see. I'm just kind of zooming around this world and looking at stuff. Um, the other question, I just got someone who said, "Hey, if I don't have a mouse, how do I place or put blocks down?" Um, if you are doing it with a touch screen, you can place blocks by touching on the touch screen where you want to place them. You'll need to be close enough to actually place them down. So, like if I'm flying up here in the sky, I can't place a block all the way down on the ground. Or if I'm looking really far off in the distance, I can't place one there. Imagine it's like what's within your arm's reach. So if I'm looking at a spot, you'll see a little black outline. And then when I touch that on my touch screen, it places a block. To break that block with your touch screen, you have to hold onto it on the touch screen. And while you're holding it, it'll break away. Um, Obviously, those are skills that you guys can gain through those tutorials. But right now, like when me and Tracy are here, feel free to ask those. Just know that in case you leave this and you're like, "Wow, I still don't really know how to play Minecraft," um, that those tutorials are there to do that for you. They're there to help you. This session is mostly made as an opportunity for you to see how you can actually use this in a class, and how you can engage students with it. I know it's only an hour. Normally, well, it's actually less than an hour, but normally you'd have time where you can say, okay, students who need to go on those tutorials, here are the tutorials. They don't take very long. The tutorials take maybe 5 minutes each. And then this building session, you can get students in here for about 20 minutes, but we wanted to show all the like kind of ins and outs of this world and how to use it.
And in addition to the tutorials, if you remember, one of the things that Dan suggested for being successful in a project is for you to build a teacher example. Um, the act of building the example helps you kind of see the process that the kids are going to go through. And pretty much we say a good rule of thumb for that is keep track of how much time it takes you to build your example and then multiply that by about 3 for how long you expect it to take the kids to build their project. And that's not a reflection of how well they know Minecraft. It's more a reflection of how focused they're going to be on really getting the task done. But, as adults, we sit down with our idea in mind and we focus and we go through it without interruption as long as we can. Maybe you've only got 30 minutes to build at any given time, but building that teacher example gives you kind of the practice and the idea of how much time it'll take your kids. And then hopefully you can then take that amount of time and say, okay, I know that we're going to take 3 days to build this project in Minecraft, or 4 days, or a whole week, or something like that. So doing that teacher example not only gives you a little bit of practice in there, but it gives you a realistic timeline for what you can expect for your students to get in here. And I'm going to let you guys know we've got about 2 more minutes to work in our build space before we're going to stop hosting the world. When Dan stops hosting the world, that will kick you guys out of it. So again, that's a good thing to do with your students when you're working on this in the class, is to give them that sort of countdown. 5 minutes, I'm going to stop hosting the world. In 3 minutes, I'm going to stop hosting the world. In 1 minute, I'm going to stop hosting the world. And I know if you were in Jim Guest's session, for the first round of sessions this morning, he said he'll put a timer up to tell the kids, and it's like a 1 minute or 30 seconds or something. So he's already given them multiple warnings. We're going to stop hosting. We're going to stop hosting. We're going to stop hosting. And then when he gets down to that last warning, he puts a timer up at the front of the room. And when it goes ding ding ding, he clicks the stop hosting button, and everybody gets kicked out. Which brings me to something important. You're not going to lose anything that you've built. Dan owns this world and is hosting it right now. So everything that you've built is actually saving on his computer in his world right now. So everything that you've built would be accessible to you the next time you entered this world that he's hosting. So everything saves automatically, but it doesn't save on your device, it saves on the teacher's device, the one who's hosting the world.
With that in mind, I've done projects that have taken multiple days in this room, so I just reopen it. When students join in again, they'll pop in right back where they left. So let's say you're in one of these rooms and you're in the middle of building. If I close the world and save it, when I reopen it and you rejoin, you'll just be right back in that room that you were in before. Everything you built will be there. All your work will be saved. If you want students to be able to do this at home, you'll have to give them a copy of the world. Similar to how we're giving you a copy of this world, you can give them a copy either of this world or they can just make their own world to build it in and then share it with you later. Um, were there any other questions in the chat? I want to make sure that I get any of those before we leave
I think
this.
I think we got through everything that was coming into Google Meet. So I've got 11:46. So Dan's going to give you guys 20 seconds, and then we're
Oh,
going to stop hosting the world. You got 20 seconds, and he's going to stop hosting, and then we're going to come back and we're going to start wrapping up our session.
one thing while I'm giving that 20 seconds, I'm just flying around looking at all the stuff that was built, which is super cool. It's awesome to be able to see each person's room. Like I said, by having like names on the signs, it's a really helpful way for you to know whose work is whose. And just to kind of again say on how versatile this is, um, it's really cool. You can have students working on their own or in groups. You can take the models out of this world directly and 3D print whatever is built in one of these rooms. You'll notice the weird like white line borders that come out of the ground and go around the sky in each room. That's just showing where it would be 3D printed or exported. There's a lot you can do with this, and it's a really fun way for students to engage and share in their learning, as well as to create and apply knowledge from something else. With that, I'm going to exit. I clicked escape. I'm going to go to when I open that menu, it's showing me the multiplayer menu. So I have an option that says stop hosting. When I click that, it will give me the option. If you stop hosting, it'll end for all players. Do you want to do this? I'll click confirm, and then you all have been removed from this world. Another way to do it, I don't even have to just stop hosting. I can literally go to this one that looks like a globe and click save and exit. And when I do that, it'll automatically end the multiplayer world and kick you out also. Either one works.
Okay, so we're going to come back to the Nearpod and we're going to start wrapping things up here in a second. I want to come back to a couple of things that Dan brought up while he was going through the world with you guys. When I did Minecraft with my students, I did have a couple of students that felt that they were building slower than their classmates. They weren't as familiar with Minecraft. Maybe they spent a lot of time trying to get into it and figure things out. They started with things that then they weren't happy with it, and so they took a whole lot of things apart. Again, these are common problems. You get those perfectionist kids who start physically building something with whatever supplies you give them, only to tear it all apart and throw it in the trash can 4 days into a project, right? And now you're panicked that you're not going to have time to finish this because you're starting over on the last day. So I did have kids that got into panic mode for a variety of reasons. So what I started doing was hosting the world in the evenings. Monday through Thursday, I told the kids the world is going to be open from 5 to 9. And I didn't have to sit there in front of it and monitor it all night. It's not like I was giving myself a massive amount of homework. All I had to do was log in and get the join code, those four little characters. I went back into our Brightspace class and I posted those as announcements every night. And then I would just kind of walk by my laptop occasionally to see who was there. I wanted to make sure they weren't in the world trying to mess things up. They weren't trying to sabotage anybody. And for the most part, it was the same 5 or 6 kids who joined consistently when I was hosting the world in the evenings. And the chat stays for the entire session. So before I would click end hosting at the end of the night, I would just kind of scroll back through the chat. Make sure nobody posted anything they shouldn't have. I could take a screenshot of that if I need to, but I just kind of rolled back through the chat to make sure that they hadn't posted anything that wasn't school appropriate. And I would occasionally look in to make sure that they were doing what they should be in the world. And I'll be honest with you, these are middle school kids. If you haven't heard us say it before, middle schoolers, this is why we can't have nice things. The kids who joined in the evening were there to build. They weren't there to sabotage. They weren't there to mess around. They were there to build. They were the ones who were panicking. So it really worked out well, and it allowed a little bit of extra time for the kids who felt like they were falling behind. Okay, so let's get over here back into our Nearpod. If you closed that, you can join this again. I'll drop the code down here into the chat for you guys if you closed out of Nearpod. Here we go. 37 BC. Okay. All right. So if you closed out of the Nearpod, just come on back to us and join that one with the code that I just dropped into the chat. So let's talk a little bit about successful hosting. That individual build world, as Dan said, is something that he created. He's used with his students. I used it with mine. And then I created a second version that's just a little bit bigger with 40 build spaces. But when you're hosting a world, we have discovered some things that work out really well in terms of your settings. For middle schoolers, you want to turn off friendly fire. For whatever reason, when you get to middle school, the number one thing they want to do is kill each other in Minecraft. And they actually physically write out kill lists that get them in trouble and sent to the office. And they mean people I want to kill in Minecraft, but it doesn't matter because we know the school climate today. You can't have a kill list. So turn off friendly fire. They can't damage each other, and they quickly get over that impulsion. I know from talking with Jim Guest and possibly even Dan for the younger kids, fire spreads and TNT explodes are things that get the younger kids into trouble. They love to play with fire in Minecraft, and they light fires and then they burn down their entire build, and there is no undo button. So turning off things like that are great ways to keep the kids from destroying their own builds, destroying their classmates' builds, intentionally or unintentionally. Turning off player damage and player versus player damage again keeps those pesky middle schoolers from attempting to do that. Knowing how to remove a player or set a player to visitor is a great way. Again, if you have a student who's a little too focused on sabotaging everybody else's build, you can kick them out of the world. You can set them to visitor, which means they can walk around, they can see everything, but they can't interact with anything. They can't build, they can't break, they can't do anything. And if you remove a player, knowing how to reset the join code are some great things to know how to do, just so that you can deal with anybody who's not focused on the project. Um, and then, if age appropriate, having those boards and asking the students to explain their build to you. Why did you build it this way? Why did you choose to make your roof that shape? Why didn't you include any windows? Why do you have double doors instead of single doors? Why do you have 2 stories on your build versus one? Just having them explain what they built. Again, a lot of times when we have kids do projects, we ask them to get up and present and tell us about your project. This is a way for them to tell you about their project in Minecraft by putting down those chalkboards and things like that. Dan, jump in if you have anything to add.
Only that it is 11:53. I want to make sure that people get a chance to uh, ask any final questions. So if you do have a question, make sure you post it in the chat. I promise I'll go through them as fast as I can. But yeah, that was it.
And then we had another collaborate board here, which seems to be very slow to load on my Nearpod screen. I'm not sure if you guys are in there. There we go. Okay, so in this collaborate, we actually did 2 columns. Column 1 is what projects in your content area could be done in Minecraft. And then column 2 was kind of going back to that question we asked you guys in the very beginning. What barriers do you still see? I know a lot of people said it's your own comfort, and we're not expecting you to move from novice to expert in one 55-minute session, but let us know if you have any ongoing barriers. And while you guys are engaging in the collaborate, I will open it up, as Dan said, so we can give you guys a little bit of time to ask any lingering questions. You can type them in the chat. You can turn on your microphone if you feel comfortable and just ask the group.
Oh, are we posting that Google Drive folder now, or are we posting that
Yes,
tomorrow?
let me go grab that
Cool.
link for everybody.
Timothy, I saw
And
that you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, we need to get the attendance link out there as well. So I'm going to drop
Cool.
in the link to the folder. and then I'm going to drop in the link to the attendance. So make sure you get both of those. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're okay. Just a couple of things in there. I saw something about asking about disabling chat, and at the moment, I don't see something that's directly doing that within Minecraft. I'm going to keep looking just because.
Dan, I looked at that one
Okay,
as
cool.
well because I was, again, middle schoolers. I was concerned about things they would post in the chat, and I was not able to find a way to disable the chat.
Got it. For cameras and visitor, that's also something I haven't messed with much, but I know that visitors can't place or destroy blocks, which would, I think, also probably remove them from placing cameras. Yeah, I'm not sure. That said, if you wanted, if they joined as a visitor and you want them to take pictures, they could do screenshots of their screen. That might help or fix that I don't know, maybe. Hopefully that helps out a little. Any idea on why the structure block is not available in searchable inventory anymore? Yeah, it's super weird. You do have to use that command prompt to get it. Let me find the exact command to get structure block.
Yeah, and I know that some of like commands in general are related to you have to have cheat codes turned on. Is that right, Dan?
You have to allow commands, which commands
Yeah.
should be allowed in the first place. Like you shouldn't have to change anything to do that. But that is something for some of those specific blocks. For those of you that are hearing this and you're like, what are you talking about? Don't worry. This is an advanced thing you don't even have to know about to take that world that we just gave you and use it with students. Literally just those things that we just tested. Are good enough. If you're thinking to yourself, wow, this is something I really want to mess with and build more for students, then you can look into command blocks, you can look into redstone, stuff like that. But that is kind of the next level. Don't stress yourself out with that if you're still getting those basic blocks.
Yeah, Dan, I'm sorry to just hijack it with like advanced level technical questions, but in high school, like in a comp sci and the high level CTE classes, like that's the type of stuff that we use command block all the time to be able to like actually have them program agents and all, like the really, really high level stuff. And
Yeah.
and I very rarely get to talk to people that actually know stuff about the actual Minecraft for education. And I figured on a flyer I'd ask like, hey, what's going on with this? I noticed it's like it's really kind of buggy now where like they'll go and they'll put in that structure block, the /give, and it'll say it adds it to their inventory, but they won't actually like have it to be able to place it, to be able to bring up that little bounding box that will put their stuff inside of. I guess you probably know what I'm talking about with like, where you have to give it XYZ coordinates to actually like bound that box in. Like it won't give them that block. And I just wanted to see if anybody else like knew why they took it away. Like it used to be like something you could just have them bring up their inventory, they could search for it, and it's gone now.
So
I want to step in really quickly and just
yeah.
say we are officially over on time. So if you are done and you don't have questions and you don't want to listen to the answers to other people's questions, now is a great time to leave. If you do have questions, hang out with us. I am going to stop the recording though. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to